All right, let's talk about this. Emotions. But before we get started, just like my shirt says, inhale, exhale, let's just stop real quick for a moment, pause, and just inhale and exhale. Sometimes we just gotta stop, pause, and breathe. All right, now let's talk about it. This is what I want to talk about. Don't let your emotions hold you back or get the best of you as we go into this new year. So let's break it down. Now, do you know that in the span of one day, we go through hundreds of emotions? There are many different types of emotions that we experience. And technically, they're not negative or positive, nor are they good or bad, though we always label them or we think of them as being negative. But emotions are states of mind, just signals that help us to understand what's really going on in the moment and basically how we feel about it. But the problem is most of us, even myself included, we can confuse our emotions with our feelings. And we have to realize that they're two separate things. Feelings are related to emotions, but they are more specific in nature. So when you think about it, for example, if I say I'm angry, that's expressing a basic emotion, but the actual feeling that I experience through my anger may be totally different. It could be resentful at one point, or it could be through aggression, or it could be frustration. It's just the list goes on and on. So our feelings is totally different. Feelings are also a learned response to an emotional trigger, and they're influenced by our environment. So another example is we all experience the basic emotion of fear. However, we all experience feelings of fear differently. Some people get anxious. Some fears are through insecurity or rejection, and they're all based on our emotional triggers. Also, if you were raised in an environment where you were just taught to be ashamed of your emotions, then it could be extremely difficult for you to express your true feelings. And we've all been around someone like that, or we ourselves are that way. And therefore, that's why it's extremely important that we take the time to do the inner work to ensure that our emotions, as well as our feelings, do not hold us back from achieving our goals and being all that God destined us to be. But the key is you have to learn to practice emotional intelligence, which is the foundation of our self-awareness, so that we can properly recognize, understand, manage, and regulate our emotions, which is a huge part of our personal wellness and well-being. In fact, research has shown that your emotional intelligence is far more significant than your IQ, and it accounts for our personal and our professional success. As we prepare for the new year for 2023, here are 5 strategies you can use to boost your emotional intelligence. Number 1, identify your emotions and be aware of your feelings. I hope I'm saying his name right. His name is Robert Prechik. He created, it was around, I think it was 1980, he created what's called the Wheel of Emotions. And basically, he says there are 8 primary or core emotions, and that's joy, fear, surprise, anger, trust, sadness, disgust, and anticipation. Now, when you look at that wheel, the innermost circle is where your high intensity emotions are. Then you have those 8 primary emotions, and then everything that's on the outer edges, as you go out, the intensity gets less, which means that our feelings are not as strong. So your emotions get the best of you when they're real intense, or if we hold on to a tense emotion for a long period of time. Now, the reason why I bring up the wheel of emotions is because you can use it as a tool for developing your self-awareness, again, which is the foundation of emotional intelligence, and for your emotional literacy. The wheel also helps you to identify those primary emotions so that you know what your underlying feelings are, so that you can better understand your triggers. Now, it also helps you to understand other people's emotions and how to communicate more effectively when you're having conversations or dealing with others. Let's go into number 2, identifying your emotional triggers. Now, that's one of the most effective ways to improve your emotional intelligence is when you can identify and understand the feelings that trigger you. When you know what makes you feel a certain way, then you can take those necessary steps to create a positive response rather than a negative reaction through your emotions. Now, for example, someone says something that makes you real angry, and you know, y'all, we get angry all the time. Instead of responding with feelings of anger or even being in a hostile manner, you got to ask yourself these questions. Why am I feeling this way? What caused me to feel this way? Is this a reasonable and productive response? And what can I do differently to have a more productive response? Again, ask yourself these questions before you actually respond in anger. Number 3, determine what are the likely consequences and impact of negative responses. Now, when it comes to boosting your emotional intelligence, it is so important that we know what are those consequences. This will help you so that you're better prepared, especially when dealing with people who you might not agree with or don't support your ideas. Emotional intelligence isn't just about recognizing and understanding your own emotions. That's why we have to know what is the consequences of our responses, because when we do, we're able to understand others. And if you don't know what kind of response you'll have when someone confronts you or if they disagree with you, then how can you expect them to know that? That's why it's so important to take time before making big decisions and taking big actions to make sure that you're prepared for those consequences. It's all about making sure that you're ready for whatever happens next. You want to be able to handle any situation with grace and ease so that no matter what, your reaction is appropriate and it's professional. That takes us to number 4, which is practice mindfulness habits and behaviors daily. Now, I know I talk about this a lot because it's so important, because mindfulness is a powerful tool for boosting your emotional intelligence. And it might sound like a lot of work at first, but it's actually pretty simple, and there's a lot of things that you can do. Now, practicing mindfulness can help you to be aware of what's happening in your environment, and it can help you control how you feel. You can start practicing mindfulness habits and behaviors right now. And here are a few things you can do. Take a few minutes each day to just sit still in quietness. Breathe deeply. Breathe and focus on being in the present moment. Also, take a moment each day to reflect on your emotions. This can be done at any time, but it's best to do it first thing in the morning before anything else distracts you or before anything else gets in your way from your ability to focus on yourself. Also, make sure that your environment is conducive to mindfulness. It should be quiet and free from distractions. Put your phone away, move away from everybody. Get someplace where you can have quietness, stillness, so you can be one with yourself. Also, when you feel stressed, burnt out, or overwhelmed, take a break and do something relaxing. Different mindfulness activities that you can do are affirmations, meditation, reading something inspirational, journaling, walking, breath work, and breathing. Number 5, practice effective listening skills. Now, when you're in a conversation, it's important to pay attention both to what the other person is saying and how they're saying it to you. If you do this, you'll be able to understand where they are coming from and how they feel about a situation. You'll also be able to respond appropriately and help them feel heard and understood. See, a lot of times we listen to respond, but we don't listen so that the other person is heard, so that we can give them the appropriate response. Now, asking questions is another great strategy to boost your emotional intelligence. When you ask questions, it shows that you want to know more about something and that you're interested in what someone else has to say. And it also helps to build trust between the two of you because it shows that you're invested in understanding exactly what that person wants or needs, and you are more attentive when we're asking questions. Now, with that said, in the end, with all of this, it's important to remember that we all human. We all experience emotions and feelings differently. So as we move into the new year, into 2023, it's important to remember to focus, prioritize, and to make sure that we make our emotional intelligence a top priority so that we can make sure we just take care of our personal wellness and well-being for our growth. It also helps us to make good decisions, to manage our stress, to communicate more effectively, and to build healthy relationships so that we can achieve our goals and success in various areas of our lives. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and watch these other videos to help you to elevate to wellness. Blessings, peace, and love.